Great, thanks very much. Well, thanks for sticking around, folks. It's been a long and busy couple of days. So, Newrange is working in Nevada, and it's when you look at the summary of the company, it's really also a summary of the items that you really need to build a successful company, a successful project. I'm a geologist myself, co-founder of Great Panther Mining, and stepped out and back to my exploration roots to work on Newrange. But I know from experience that high grade is critical to the success of any good deposit. We've got terrific management, a lot of experience in the industry, building, finding mines, building companies. We're working in Nevada, which is currently #1 mining district or mining jurisdiction in the world, according to Fraser Institute. We're right off the main highway between Reno and Las Vegas. Power line crossing the property, so great infrastructure, and already we know that we've got great metallurgy as well, which is critical to the success of any mining project. Just a quick snapshot of where we are on the Walker Lane trend, Western Nevada. Very prolific trend in its own right. Historic mines like Comstock Lode, Tonopah, Round Mountains, one of the largest gold mines in the world. So it's a terrific area to be in, very well mineralized, and we're actually working on a project that has been in production before, dating back to the 1880s, and it was in production through to the 1920s. Interestingly, and this is where one of the big opportunities for us comes in, is that this has been privately owned since 1896. There have been 3 different families that have owned the project. One, the Dodge family, that consolidated the district back in the late 1800s and had it in production until the 1920s. And then it was passed on to 2 other families since then. So it's never really seen much in the way of modern exploration, even though at the time it was known as one of the highest grade gold districts in Nevada. So it's large size, district scale, and we've got multiple targets on the project. I can see it's about 7.5 kilometers from one corner to the other, just off the highway, and we've been focusing, I don't know if there's a laser pointer on this thing, I guess not, but focusing on this one area with the little yellow pins on it there, down called Pamico Ridge. But there are multiple targets across the property where we're picking up gold values, several grams per ton and so on. So lots of targets to work on. Just zooming in, you can see Google Earth photo here. As I mentioned, the main area called Pamlico Ridge there, which is about 1.5 kilometers strike length. There's a parallel zone called Gold Box Canyon, so the total width there is about 1 kilometer. That's really the area of the old mining district, so about 1.5 kilometers by 1 kilometer wide. So it's sizable in its own right, and we're trying to develop that to determine just the extent of the mineralization within that. There's also a head frame off to the south, an old head frame dating back to the 1800s with a shaft there. We really don't know. We have no records from any of the old production, which makes it interesting to work, trying to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. But it's a sizable area, and you can see the area called the Merritt Decline there. It's an area where we started focusing our work because the family that owns it now, the Merritt family, actually put down a decline, sort of an angled tunnel going down at about 15 degrees, and they were targeting an area that they had identified with some of their own drilling, but they never really sampled the inside of the decline. And we did that when we took an option on the property a few years ago. From the bottom of the decline working back up, we sampled about 75.5 meters of almost 3 grams gold. So it's a very significant high grade, individual samples in excess of 100 grams per ton in places, and we now have the permits in place to do a bulk sample of about 1,000 tons from the bottom of the decline, and that'll give us some excellent information as far as metallurgy and so on goes. We did some drilling around the bottom of the decline as well. You can see here just as a few highlights, some of the higher grades that we're getting. We're not just talking about 30, 50 centimeters of high grade material, but 6 meters of 98 grams, almost 3 ounces per ton is has a pretty significant intercept. Within that, surrounding the high grade, there's some more modest grades, such that we do get some wider intercepts of still the 1 to 5 gram range. So when we started getting that, we started to realize that okay, this has potential to be more than just an underground high grade vein type deposit. That there's really potential for an open pit here. So what we're probably dealing with is a larger area of sort of modest grade with pockets of higher grade sweeteners, if you like. So focusing on this Pamico Ridge area, you can see here on the left is the Merritt area where we had drilled, and you can see the decline there, the little dark line. But we've been sampling the underground workings, and as you may have seen on the previous slide, we have about 300 old access ways, adits into the sides of the hills where the old miners were working, and about 8,000 meters of underground tunnels to work with. So it's a bit of a daunting task to survey and sample all of that. But at the same time, it's a tremendous opportunity to have access to that, to be able to sample all those underground workings. It's a little bit like horizontal drill holes at a fraction of the cost. So we've been going in there, and just recently we sampled this area shown on the right-hand side of the slide called the Good Hope Mine. And our geologist and his sampling crew went in there, crawling around the old workings, and found some of the mineralization that the old-timers had been focused on, and they sampled 40 meters of almost 14 grams gold and about 71 grams silver. So it's a very significant rediscovery, we call it. And part of the reason for that is that it's about 850 meters from the area that we've been doing our drilling previously, and you can see the sort of the pale patches all through the hills on the slide here. These are all the old mine dumps from the mining that was going on back in the 1800s. So without anything really to go on, we know this whole area has been mined. We can still pick up samples with really nice visible gold in the dumps that are sitting right outside the old mine workings. I've got samples of that at the booth, so it really for us at this point, we know that this whole area is connected. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how, what's the grade going to be, how big is it, and so that's kind of where we're at in our evaluation. In the interim, we're continuing with the underground sampling. This is a unit that we've picked up. It's a handheld laser scanner. It's actually built here in the UK. This is state-of-the-art technology. This unit was something like number 75 off the assembly line. And as far as I know, we're the only company in the world that's using this technology for this type of an application, where you can just hold this unit in front of you, walk through the old tunnels, and the laser scanner just collects 300,000 data points per second and plots a three-dimensional model of the underground workings. So this is important from a couple of standpoints. One, it gives us an exact location of where the tunnels are, so we don't drill into them and get the rods jammed. And secondly, it gives us millimeter scale accuracy for every single underground sample that we take, such that we can eventually take those assays and build them into a resource estimate at some point. We've been doing some metallurgy at the same time. I can see just from the graphs here that after only 24 hours, some of the low-grade samples leach out to over 70%. 96 hours, the higher-grade samples bring in 97%. Low cyanide consumption, we know it's going to be easily leachable. Metallurgy is key to the success of any mining project, and so it was important for us to do this work up front to demonstrate that it's going to be a viable project. So just to conclude, we're continuing on with the underground surveying, mapping, sampling, metallurgical studies. We'll be doing some trenching, surface work as well, the bulk sample program that I mentioned, and continuous drilling on the various zones. So it's just a shot of Round Mountain, which is just to the east of us. This is what we hope to find. We're not quite there yet, but it's certainly a great target to have. We think we've got all the ingredients to get there. So thanks very much for your attention.